ええ、この子ですよ。
間違いないですか？
ええ。後で知ったんですけど、あいつミュータントなんですってね。今度は何やらかしたんです。
So, we've got yet another hint of mutants coming to the MCU. And I'm excited, but I'm also worried. In case you don't know, the final episode of Miss Marvel features this line.
Kamala, there's something different in your genes. Like a mutation.
I think this introduction thematically fit Miss Marvel as a series and the current direction the MCU as a whole has been taking. Miss Marvel has quite a few themes that are definitely relevant to the metaphoric role that Marvel's mutants have played. Lots of people of a variety of backgrounds and identities can identify with the mutant struggle for equality and acceptance. For example, Kamala and her mosque face discrimination by a government institution. She also has to go through the struggle of deciding whether to come out to her family and friends, and then accidentally outing herself. Given this, Miss Marvel is as good a place as any to drop this hint. I don't think there are many people who haven't realized that this current phase of the MCU is the most diverse one so far. There are more and more new characters that don't fit into the white, straight, cisgender mold that typified much of the previous MCU. However, while there have been hits, there have also been misses. Let me give you some examples. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier introduces Sam Wilson in not only a leading role, but gives him the revered mantle of Captain America. However, it also features a group called the Flag Smashers, who protest systematic oppression. The fact that Sam is black and that the Flag Smashers leader, Karli Morgenthau, can appreciate the struggles that Sam's sister expresses to her.
My world doesn't matter to America, so why should I care about its mascot?
I like you, Sarah. It reminds me of me.
Makes it hard not to associate the Flag Smashers with the real-life Black Lives Matter movement. However, the writers chose the lazy route of making Karli radicalized and violent. Considering the fact that BLM is constantly mislabeled as a terrorist group, I think that's in poor taste. They missed the opportunity for a far more nuanced discussion of how disenfranchised people can and should fight the system. Sam gets the star and stripes and shield and gives an impassioned speech at the end, but what good does that do in real life? Most systematically oppressed people don't have the platform to speak to the people who have control over these systems. So how should they navigate this? How should they fight for themselves? The show's answer to this question is lacking, in my opinion. In fact, I'm not even sure if I really know what that answer is. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier also introduces Isaiah Bradley, a super soldier who has suffered at the hands of the US government. It experimented on him and forced him to fight its battles. Understandably, Isaiah lives with trauma that has lasted for decades. He hides away, afraid of what would happen to him if the government's past transgressions come to light. So what do the writers have Sam do? Why, let the whole nation know about him, of course. He gets a monument set up for Isaiah, but does not ask Isaiah's permission first. It works out well, with Isaiah crying tears of joy because that's what the story needs to happen. But that is not how you should respond to someone with that kind of trauma. You ask them if they are ready for the public to know. Sam has now made it a certainty that Isaiah will have to relive his trauma when people in his community or reporters or any number of people come to him to talk about what he went through. Definitely not the best decision on the part of the writers. Another example is Hawkeye. Ever since I found out that the Clint Barton of the comics is deaf and uses American Sign Language, I was disappointed in the MCU's decision not to incorporate that into any of his theatrical appearances. In his series though, he wears hearing aids and identifies as hard of hearing. They also introduce a deaf character named Maya Lopez, who does use ASL and says this to Clint. With these lines, Maya is set up as the representation of Clint's struggle between embracing his deafness and trying to fit in with the hearing world. I expected that, by the end of the show, Clint would take her advice and somehow use his deafness to his advantage, or at least stop depending on his hearing aids as much. But no. When his hearing aids are damaged, he gets them fixed as soon as possible, and this entire exchange is forgotten. So, what was the point? And then Moon Knight. This one is an interesting one. Mark Spector and Stephen Grant are not only confirmed Jewish, but are alters in a dissociative identity disorder system. DID is a topic that I don't feel comfortable saying a lot about because I know so little about it and I have no experience with it. But I was extremely disappointed that they never mention the medical term throughout the show's runtime. Having the correct name for a medical condition is a powerful tool, I think, and it upsets me that many people will have watched the show still thinking that the accepted term is multiple personality disorder, or worse, schizophrenia. I could go on to talk about stuff like the fact that The Falcon and the Winter Soldier plays up the stale old trope of putting two manly men in awkward, intimate, or romantic looking situations for laughs. Or the fact that Heimdall's son, Axel, has been read as a transgender boy who was dead named by Thor in Thor Love and Thunder, also for laughs. Honestly, I fear that the MCU has worked to include diversity in Phase 4 without doing its due diligence some of the time. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy to see the MCU have such a diverse cast of characters, and I am curious to see where they go with it. However, I am also worried that they will continue to miss the mark. If they do, then who's to stop them from doing the same thing with mutants and the X-Men? Mutants were designed to be a stand-in for a variety of experiences. They are important to a lot of us. I just hope the MCU does them justice. If you got this far, thanks so much for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, all the nice and generous things that help small channels like mine grow. I've been Ken Kwame, and I'll see you next time.